Welcome to the OtherWorldsGG Community Cast. This is episode number 52. Number 52. We have one episode a week for a whole year's worth of episodes. Took us longer to get there, but, hey, we're here. Yeah,
That's a lot of us talking. I mean,
wow. Well, I'm table for two, in case you all are wondering, and that other lovely voice that you hear is Mellified. Welcome, buddy.
Hello. Yeah, I was just thinking, like, we're full of hot air. Who knew that we could go for 52 hours plus?
Ooh, boy, howdy. Full of hot air. Yeah, man. Let's jump on into all of the news that is news in the gaming realm. A lot of things in the last couple of weeks. What's interesting, before we really jump into it, is Microsoft, I feel like, has been just dumping game trailer after game trailer on their YouTube channel as of late. Some of them are from existing games that are coming to their console from other locations, but I just feel like every now and then, every week or so, I'm always looking over and there's a new game trailer that they're posted on their YouTube channel.
Interesting. I don't tend to hang out on YouTube, but I definitely feel like I've been seeing just a ton of games in general being announced. No shortage of stuff to play, that's for sure.
Well, jumping right out of the gate, there is a new and improved Witcher 3 first-person mod, which includes full combat functionality. I've been seeing mods like this pop up from time to time. There's another one for Wildlands, Ghost Recon Wildlands, that turns it into a first-person tactical shooter.
Really?
Yeah, I've been meaning to get my hands on that one too. So it's interesting to see these mods take the classic third-person gameplay and put it into a first-person combat situation. So that's pretty slick.
Well, I'm interested to see it because Cyberpunk 2077, which is the same developer, obviously, as Witcher 3, is first person and does have a pretty robust, combat. So I could see that actually working pretty well with Witcher.
Oh, for sure. Speaking of interesting, the GTA trilogy that got a remaster that Rockstar put out that was famously just terrible. Yes. Apparently it got an enormous patch with a focus on texture fixes. Have you checked this out since then? Since they've put out this
I
patch
haven't.
out?
No, I kind of just, wrote it off after it first came out, and I haven't paid a ton of attention, but the screenshots look better, so I guess that's a good sign. Hopefully, they'll actually give these classic games the respect they deserve and do a decent job with them,
Yeah, it's interesting when when that trilogy came out, there were so many modders that were coming out of the woodworks to fix all the stuff that Rockstar couldn't, apparently do themselves. It's interesting too that modders seem to be the ones that are really caring for the detail rather than trying just to put out a product to market.
Sure, and that's fantastic. The community is doing that, but to be clear, this is also on consoles where you don't have that option, right? If you paid $60 for this on Xbox or PlayStation, you're going to be pissed.
Yep, for sure. What else we got on here?
PC Building Simulator 2 is coming out. I don't understand the appeal of this, but for those who enjoy it, more power to you. Apparently you're getting even more components to build your virtual PCs with, and there's a 30-hour career mode as part of this sequel.
I don't understand. I like it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, wait, what? 30-hour career mode, huh? I guess you would build your small garage, custom PC business up to, something bigger, and then, fire all your employees and go out of business like the PC maker out of San Francisco just did. Hopefully that's not part of the game, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I just have never gotten into those games, unfortunately. Let's see here. Exo Primal is a new Capcom Exo Fighters versus Dinosaurs online shooter. So you're in. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, looking at this, it almost feels like, or it looks like a crossover between Overwatch and like, some kind of like Dino Horde mode thing.
It reminded me a little of like EDF games too, where it's just these waves and waves of enemies that you have to take out. But it's five player teams that are fighting against the hordes, but you have multiple teams and you're getting scored, I guess, based on how many dinosaurs you kill.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that competitive aspect to it too. Yeah, okay, interesting, a little bit different.
Nice. Square Enix is making a new strategy RPG, but it is not Final Fantasy Tactics or Ogre Battle.
Yeah.
Square Enix, I mean, I think, they got the reputation as being kind of like the RPG people, right? Like they're the JRPG company. At least that's, whenever I think of Square, that's what I think of. So it's interesting to see them do a new thing that's not in the same genre or IP. And I'm all for that. I'm all for trying something new. I wish more companies would take risks and try new things.
Yeah, I mean, this is Dayu Field Chronicle. It is a full 3D looking game. The screenshots look very reminiscent of their art style, I would say, from Final Fantasy. But there was a GeForce Now leak a while back, and it listed 4 Square Enix games. The Chrono Cross remaster, which we now know is confirmed. This game, Dio Field, and a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster and a Tactics Ogre remaster. So the fact that we've now got 50% of that leak now confirmed for Square Enix games, it seems very likely that we will be getting remasters of those two classic strategy titles as well, which I'm really excited about. Tactics Ogre is one of the things I'll pull out my N64 to play. I love that game, so...
Well, we're getting a new Star Trek game, and it's about darn time. It's always been interesting, like, to see that we weren't getting any new Star Trek games for like forever. It just seemed like all they were doing was dumping content into Star Trek Online, which is fine. I'm not opposed to that either, but no new games, or at least no new interesting games, was something that was always made me shrug and scratch my head. Never understood it, but there's this new one called Star Trek Resurgence, which is a Telltale game, right? A Telltale game, whatever you call it.
It's the CEO of Telltale Games and a bunch of the developers from Telltale, but Telltale is out of business. Yeah,
right. So it's those people famous for that company are working on this. And what's interesting is I was watching the trailer for this, and the captain of this ship looks mighty familiar to me. Who does he remind you of?
The captain or the diplomat?
The captain of the ship. He's got this big old bushy mustache. He kind of almost
looks like the guy from the cartoon. The superhero dad from, is it Invincible?
Yes. You nailed it.
He looks like the dad. You're right. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, he's 100%. He looks it's almost like Uncanny Valley. He looks just like that character. You're like, did he decide to be a starship captain all of a sudden? Because that's what he looks like. He looks just like that character. And
he does, yeah.
I'm actually excited for this for a number of reasons. One thing that I really liked is that Paramount and Viacom kind of like came back together, I guess. And so now they can use the full IPs from this, because the Star Trek license got kind of split up into multiple directions, unfortunately. Now it's all back under one banner again, so they can do stuff with the like the TNG era Trek. And so this takes place in like the Star Trek TNG movie era style, like the Deep Space Nine later seasons. They've got that gray uniform with like the red undershirts or the colored undershirts. So it's very much from that genre, which is one of my favorite genres of Trek. And
they describe it as is 2380, the era immediately following Next Generation in the timeline. So definitely in that Deep Space Nine kind of era.
And it heavily has Spock in it. So Spock plays a role in this game too. Obviously not being voiced by, the original
the
person.
late Leonard Nimoy, yeah.
Correct. But really cool. We're spending a little time on this just because I'm a little excited. I'm a little excited for anything new that is not being put into Star Trek Online. So
what surprised me was, a lot of times these Telltale games, you had 2 or 3 dialogue choices. And quite frankly, like I'm thinking of The Wolf Among Us, which is a fantastic adaptation or version of the comic book. The choices didn't really matter. If you replayed the game, you realized how shallow of an impact the choices you made had on the story, other than 2 or 3 major choices. And in this game, the trailer shows a couple places where you have 6 choices of dialogue. So, it sort of suggests that hopefully you'll be getting some more meaningful impact on the story as you make these choices throughout the game.
Yeah, so pretty exciting
more fun
stuff
to replay.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely looking forward to that one. Fallout 76 falls victim to alien invasions. We talked about this in our last news show, and it's finally here. So
yes.
There it is.
Interestingly, the Bethesda is working on a 5-year roadmap for Fallout 76. They're kind of doubling down on it and saying they're going to keep developing it and keep improving it. So I guess that's great news for fans of the game.
I kind of wonder if Fallout 76 is going to become... I wonder if they're starting to mold it into being more of the Fallout version of Elder Scrolls Online. That's where I'm kind of wondering if they're going with that.
I think it's a safe bet. Elder Scrolls Online, when it came out on PC originally, was a flop, and they retooled it and ported it to consoles and made it successful, and kind of brought it back from the dead. And I feel like they're trying to recreate that with Fallout 76. Although obviously it was on console from the beginning, but they added voiced speaking human NPCs, which was not something the game had at launch. They've added a ton of interesting content like alien invasions. So the fact they're talking about a 5-year roadmap really does bode well for it.
Yep. What we got next?
Let's see. Resident Evil 2, 3, and 7, which are not the most recent Resident Evil game, but the last 3 that have been released, because they did remasters of 2 and 3, are getting a bunch of upgrades, including ray tracing support, 3D audio, and on consoles they're getting higher frame rates because they used to be locked at 30 or 60 FPS. So I guess they're using a common engine for this, so it's easy for them to, they do it once, they get it for all 3 games. So that's kind of cool. Also, the Resident Evil 4 VR version is getting the game's original Mercenaries multiplayer mode added to it. So apparently somebody at Capcom's a big Resident Evil fan and decided to go back and treat us to some upgrades on these games.
Nice. If you're into them, of course.
I pants pooping terror is how I would describe my experience of playing Resident Evil 7 in PSVR, because the horror stuff is so much more immersive when you're in it in VR and you can just look around. I couldn't make it through the first 15 minutes of the game. I swear to God. I am not good with horror to begin with, and it just freaked me the hell out.
And not playing Alien Isolation in VR, Alien Isolation gives me pause at times.
So you can imagine in VR how much it would be, right?
And you want to know the thing that's the scariest the most is not, to me, it's not the alien, because it's just like it's the evil I'm aware of. Like, I know, like, if I get caught by the alien, it's all them damn Joes. The Joes are what are the freaky things. Like, those things freak me out straight up. Like, don't get caught by a Joe. That's like, yeah.
Well, anyway. That's the good thing about playing Aliens Fireteam is you get to shoot the Joes
Yeah.
all through the game.
Oh,
So
yeah. I get my
work out
revenge.
some of that.
Yeah,
Work out
that's
some
right.
of that tension.
All right, what do we got?
On a sadder note, XCOM 2 is losing its multiplayer and challenge mode on PC. I forget how old XCOM 2 is. It's now coming up on, I think it was 10 years. Am I right about that? Am I crazy?
It's been around for a little while now, yeah.
Yeah, 2012. So yeah, 10 years. And so they're shutting down the multiplayer servers, which, you know, I can understand after 10 years, but the game is still actively played by a lot of folks. So I'm a little surprised.
All right.
Hopefully the community will come up with a way to add that back in.
I'm sure they will, knowing the throughout the years how communities do that.
Well, especially XCOM too.
Yeah. All right. I'm not as familiar with this next one. The Battle Bros get free DLC, adding 2 new factions. Note that this is actually DLC, so you'll need to visit Steam store to redeem it.
Yeah, the folks behind Battle Brothers have a really interesting business model. 6 years in, they're still doing free content for the game. But they have, I think, about $50 worth of supporter packs where you basically get, a banner for your Battle Brothers for $10 kind of thing. So if you're feeling generous, you can certainly give them more money, but they're going to give you free content either way, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, in our last news show, we talked about what was it? That other Ubisoft game, the Skull and Bones or whatever it is.
Yeah, the pirate world.
They say that it's still in development, and I talked about it'd be nice to know if they're still working on Beyond Good and Evil 2. We'll come to find out. Apparently, it's still in pre-production after all of these years.
Wow.
This is coming from like a Bloomberg report, saying that it's still in pre-production, and the game had rumors of a sequel because the original game came out in 2003, and they were talking about a sequel way back as far as 2008. But we finally saw like something revealed back in E3 of 2017 and in E3 of 2018. They were talking it big during both of those E3s, and then we got nothing after 2018. And come to find out, this is as recent as February. There was this report from Bloomberg, still in pre-production.
I feel like they rebooted the art style at least twice on the game over the years, so maybe that's why it's still pre-production. They haven't settled on the aesthetic of it.
I don't know. They did that huge, heavy-hitting like trailer that was ridiculously awesome and very detailed. If they're changing it up from that, then oh my god, like.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but worth noting, the original Beyond Good and Evil 2 did get an HD remaster at some point. You can go get it from the Xbox store, Steam store, wherever. I don't remember this being announced or discussed or anything. Does that ring a bell for you? I happened upon it one day, but I don't remember that ever being announced.
So you're talking about the original Beyond Good and Evil?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember them. I remember it was announced that it was like a brief thing. It was just like it came and went really quickly that, hey, we're doing this HD thing.
Okay.
And then it was like, bye.
You can, if you want to go back and play the original, which still holds up surprisingly well, considering it's 20 years old. You can do it at least in HD. So, speaking of bringing games back from the dead, Dead Space is getting a reboot, and we found out that will be coming in 2023. So, something to look forward to next year.
Yeah.
And TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is getting a Cowabunga collection of 13 retro games on PC, Xbox, all the systems, but it is coming to Game Pass day one. So something to look forward to if you remember fondly some of those Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games. Certainly the arcade game is one of the classics.
Turtles in Time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Gotham Knights gets October release date. So if you're wondering when, there you go. October 25th. It looks like it's going to get a release date for the Xbox Series and Xbox One. There you go.
And it's coming out on PlayStation and PC as well at the same time.
And no one cares about those.
Ha.
I'm just kidding. No, that's really good. And speaking of really good, I've always been a fan of the Lego games, so I'm really looking forward to Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and they're going to be releasing Mandalorian, Rogue One, and Bad Batch DLC packs for that game, so I'm really excited about that. I kind of hope they also go back in and add in Lego Star Wars 3 to the mix, which was all the Clone Wars stuff. I really feel like that deserves to be recognized, because I really liked Lego Star Wars 3 a lot. That was a lot of fun too. So, and
yeah, it sure seems like they could add that as a big like expansion pack. Even
I would hope so. I know that they're focusing on the Skywalker Saga, but it'd be nice to see it as like an expansion pack, like you said, as an add-on thing later. Like, here's a whole slew of other stuff. And speaking of Star Wars, there was this really awesome. Did you watch this trailer, by the way, for this game?
Oh yeah.
There's this beautiful trailer for this game that's supposed to be coming out by Quantic Dreams called Star Wars Eclipse, and it was so impressive that people were wondering if there was a new movie coming. It looked beautiful. But if you're looking forward to this game, don't hold your breath, because it'll be 2027 and 2028 roughly when this game is supposed to launch. So yeah.
Are we still going to be alive then? I thought the apocalypse was scheduled for 2024.
Yeah,
I sure feels like it the way the world's been lately, but
yeah. Oof.
Yeah. Interesting.
One day.
Back for Blood, which is the Left 4 Dead style spiritual successor, I guess is the term I'll use, is getting a major DLC called Tunnels of Terror, and that will be out in April, so look for that. And another kind of retro collection, Pac-Man Museum Plus, is bringing 14 Pac-Man titles back. This is going to be out on all the systems. It's going to be in Game Pass as well. But one of the highlights of this is some of these will be online multiplayer.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
They did go back and add that, and you can play some of them local co-op as well, but a few of them do have an online mode, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Nice.
The fact that there are 14 Pac-Man games was a bit of a surprise to me, but you think back, Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, there were
and then all of his kids.
Yeah. Oh god, and there was the horrible 3D adventure games that they did. It looks like a decent collection though. Why don't you take this next one?
All right. So, do you like pinball?
I do.
So, you're gonna. All right. So let's talk about Pinball FX3's new Indiana Jones DLC. It's kind of pricey. Apparently, if you get the Pinball FX, if I'm not mistaken, the Pinball FX thing is a free thing, and then you like buy stuff for it. If I'm not mistaken, I believe is how that works.
They have, I think, one table included in the base game. That's just something that the developer made up, Zen Studios made up.
Yeah,
but
and then
you can buy it.
And a lot of people have built like physical tables around this kind of stuff, too, to be able to use these kind of things with like real tables, but like on a digital display, but with like real buttons and such like that. But this new Indiana Jones DLC that's coming out is going to be $15 for this single table for this Pinball FX3.
By comparison, because maybe for those not familiar, there was an Aliens pack, which obviously is a licensed property similar to Indiana Jones, similar time frame, and that came with 3 tables and all the licensed sound effects, voice clips and things, and that was 3 tables for 10. So one table for 15 is a really, really expensive option.
Yep.
One cool thing that a lot of people may not realize is the Xbox version is cross-buy with PC. So you can go get the Pinball FX game from the Windows Store or the Microsoft Store on Windows 10 or 11. And then if you buy the DLC, it's unlocked on both Xbox and PC that way. So otherwise, if you buy it on Steam, you don't get it on Switch or on PlayStation or on Xbox, for example. Maybe that adds a little bit of value.
Maybe a little bit. But moving on to specific Xbox and PC news, Total War Warhammer 3 data miners find voice files for Chaos Dwarves, which is pretty cool. I think a lot of people are excited for that.
Yeah, it'd be a neat. The thought is that's going to be a DLC faction at some point. So
yeah, and I really like too how they have handled the Total War Warhammer games, because they all kind of like work together. And
yes,
I really think that's pretty slick. So yeah,
well, and if you bought DLC for the first game or the second game, it actually adds value to the third game, which I think is really, really neat.
Yep. Here's something. Anytime this gets mentioned, I get a little bit triggered. But Elite Dangerous console development is halted so developers can focus on PC. This game annoys the freaking crap out of me. I mean, it don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful game. It's got a beautiful space sim component to it with like their flight model and space combat type stuff. There's just the grind is so freaking like repetitive. It is just ridiculous. There's no real physical sense of ownership to me in this game either. Like it doesn't feel like you're doing anything for any real like purpose other than like this is cool. So if you enjoy the game, great. I really wish they would put a little bit more game in their game. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I was more upset. I mean, everything you said, yes, but I was also upset that people who paid for the console game are kind of getting the shaft here.
Yeah.
It's not clear if they're going to go back and port, future PC content back to these consoles or not. So, I don't know. Maybe they didn't sell well on console, but it's pretty disappointing, I thought, to see this.
Yep. Shame.
4 years after its final air quotes patch, Chrono Trigger on PC is getting a new update which includes ultra widescreen support. So that's kind of interesting. I assume this is because they're doing the Chrono Cross remake. So they wanted to polish up Chrono Trigger a little bit, but
yeah,
something to look forward to.
Yeah, that's not bad.
We all played a little bit of Lost Ark. I know our partner in crime, Alien Pickle, probably played it the most. Lost Ark, though, has over 20 million players globally, which for a free-to-play title is pretty good.
Good for them.
Yeah, they had some launch issues, but people seem to be enjoying it.
Speaking of issues.
Yes. Yeah, well, go ahead. Take this one. Oh, just as you're going to take a drink.
Oh, yeah. World of Warcraft's next expansion will be revealed in April, and I believe it was, April 18th, I think, is the date? I saw the date. Let me reopen this real quick and find out. But there was April 19th. That's what it is. I was close. In the realm of Price is Right, I would have probably won. But there's some stuff going on with the whole entirety of the Warcraft stuff. So they're going to be doing some things with Hearthstone. It's going to be getting some expansions. They're doing stuff with Warcraft and the mobile game with the World of Warcraft mobile stuff that they're trying to do. And then, of course, there's an expansion for World of Warcraft on the PC coming. It's going to be announced on the 19th, I guess. It'll be interesting because there's been a lot of criticism of and all of Blizzard and Activision's, other problems aside, the game side of things for WoW has not been in good spirits for quite a while now. I think there have been a lot of people that have been upset with the direction of where they're going with it. There's been a lot of people upset with the direction of how they've handled the classic launches. there's just been a whole lot of like, you know, Blizzard, what are you doing with this game kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this stuff. Some people have some optimism, you know, those diehard fans have some optimism that maybe some things will improve with the new expansion, but only time will tell. We're just gonna have to sit back, wait, and see.
Yeah, fingers crossed that they kind of pull it back to a place where people are enjoying the game again. Speaking of enjoying a game that's had some trouble, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines was an Activision release that was clearly rushed out. It had a ton of interesting ideas and cool content, but it was horribly, horribly broken. And the community has really spent the last, 15, 20 years fixing this game. The fan patch is now at 11.1, and they on GOG, if you buy this game, you get like a basic version of the fan patch that fixes problems, but the one that you get from ModDB actually has even more content added and restored to it. So something to look forward to. One of the cool things about the game, if you're familiar with Masquerade, Vampire the Masquerade at all, there are all these different factions, clans, and the game lets you pick which clan you want to be, and your experience is vastly different, and your character is vastly different if you play with the different clans. One of the clans is known for being sort of insane, and all your dialogue choices are just completely batshit. They make no sense at all. So like you get to just have these fun role-playing experiences in the game, which is one of the things that really impressed me about it. It reminds me, do you remember in Fallout 1 and 2, if you did low intelligence, you got unique dialogue choices. Like that was the reward for doing 0 to 3 or 1 to 3 int, I think it was. So kind of the same thing with this.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Halo for a minute. So the Halo games will not run, at least right now, on the Steam Deck. There's some possibility it might run in the future, but for the moment, they don't run on the Steam Deck. But Halo Infinite co-op coming sometime in Season 2 with other fixes much sooner, presumably. The campaign co-op has been delayed. Infinite multiplayer might be getting seasonal story content. All that's really nice, but the problem is there's been a lot of fans that have been not happy with the game. There's been a lot of posts on the Halo subreddit of people showing their gameplay footage of massive desync issues, where, you know, a player will shoot at an opponent repeatedly with enough force to kill the person maybe once or twice, and yet the other player will turn around and like one shot them, or turn around and do some weird thing where they like use the gravity hammer from further away than it's supposed to be used and still, you know, kill the other player. There's just a lot of weird instances of desync issues, and apparently 343 says that's going to be a harder thing to fix, and it might not be something that they can fix, presumably. It's not looking good for Halo Infinite's like multiplayer community. But good news is the Master Chief Collection still exists, so go have fun.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and the reason that the game does not work on the Steam Deck is because of the anti-cheat technology not working under Linux. Valve was trying to get that ported over to Linux as well. You can install Windows on the Steam Deck and play Halo that way, although performance won't be quite as good. Speaking of the Steam Deck and compatibility, Bungie announced that they will ban Destiny 2 players who are trying to get the game working on the Steam Deck under Linux, which is kind of a little unfortunate.
So, I think that's a little harsh. That's a little harsh, in my opinion. Apparently, though, if you do it on the Windows side of the Steam Deck, you'll be fine.
Yep.
But this is just a telling thing. I was watching an interesting overview of this from another tech YouTuber who was talking about this. Kind of just reveals a little bit of the fact of all of the data mining that the Destiny 2 like a game is really doing is dependent upon with the Windows side of things that they can't do on the Linux side.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's some shenanigans going on there that I think are a little telling. So, but anyway,
Well, one thing I'll be interested to see is if the community comes up with a solution for dual booting between Windows and Linux on the
I
Steam
was
Deck.
actually curious about that too. I was really curious about
Yeah.
that too. I wonder if like you can do it where like you load in like an SD card and it like you can like hot swap, or I don't know.
Hopefully we'll get some solution for that, because I wouldn't mind paying for a Windows license for it to to be able to play certain games and just stay in Linux for the majority of the time.
It could potentially be challenging because of the nature of the size of the onboard drive for where the
Yeah.
OS is. So you might need the larger drive in order to do it properly. But it wouldn't surprise me if someone came up with a way to do it. I think that'd be pretty.
It would certainly add a lot of value to the Steam Deck, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. Speaking of value, Game Pass continues to deliver. If you are not a subscriber and you are a gamer, you should seriously get your head examined, because Game Pass is just fantastic. Specifically, though, we're getting Guardians of the Galaxy, which is one of the best storylines in a game that I have played in the last 5 years. Probably it was really, really fun. We're also getting Kentucky Route Zero, which is a very creepy, kind of weird adventure game, similar to the Telltale games, which is pretty well regarded. So some things to look forward to. Do you remember
here.
Alice, the Madness Returns at all?
I think I played part of it once a long time ago, but that's about it.
Yeah, it was kind of a neat, what's the guy's name? McGee, American McGee, did it, and he was famous for working on some of the Doom Quake games, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was a creepy, Alice in Wonderland. You played as Alice, but you were, basically trapped in Wonderland again. The game is back on Steam after being delisted 5 years ago. So if you have any interest, this is kind of a neat piece of gaming history. You can go back and give that a shot now on Steam. So nice to see it available again.
Heck yes. You gotta love it, man. Skyrim has been around for such a long time. It's received so many mods and it's received so much praise that they've done their super duper anniversary whatever edition that included all these community mods into it. Well, now there's this new immersive Skyrim mods that give bandits 500 more things to say.
Well, and you kind of get to the point where the 20 voice lines that the different enemies have to say. So this is probably something worth having if you've played a lot of Skyrim.
Yeah, things that might surprise you, So
yeah, for sure. Sifu is a interesting kind of ninja style game. It has now a Batman mod, as well as Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Neo, and Daredevil. You can basically become those people. You can even fight Agent Smith if you want to have the full Neo experience.
Nice.
Yeah, so they're definitely having fun with it. This game is on PlayStation as well, but obviously the mods are just on the PC. So keep an eye out for that if that's interesting. Xbox got an update. The system update adds the ability to pin games to quick resume. So if you're kind of constantly flipping back to a game that you want to be able to get into quickly, you can lock it in memory so you can instantly boot it up essentially. And
yeah,
now you can
nice.
you can remap the share button to do something else, like open your friends list, open the achievements list.
That's nice. It's nice that you can remap. It's nice that they're actually doing remapping at all. Like, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they added some new actions that the Elite Series 2 and the adaptive controller can do now, because they have a couple extra buttons. So, just cool that they're continuing to improve the Xbox experience. They also added an audio setup wizard to help you kind of get your audio sounding optimal on the Xbox. So very cool.
Well, if you didn't think it was brutal enough, Dying Light 2's patch 1.2 to add brutality pack.
Yeah, the zombies in the game are kind of gross enough. I can't quite imagine what we need dismemberment animations and blood splatter effects for, which are two of the headline features of this brutality.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, Dying Light 2 is fun. I don't know. It just doesn't do it enough for me. I think it's the co-op that is where it's at for me on that one.
That's certainly what the original Dying Light made its success on, was the fact that you could play co-op and do basically the entire game in co-op. So speaking of fun co-op experiences, we've got some interesting updates for Sea of Thieves. They added new rewards, sea forts. You can conquer the sea forts, but they're a little bit shorter, easier challenges than the regular forts now. Have you gotten a chance to get into Season 6 at all yet?
Not yet. This is content I was actually looking forward to. So I'm actually looking forward to hopping in with somebody and trying to go see what we can do. Yeah,
this is out now, so have at it, folks.
Well, what are we doing this afternoon, Mollified?
Maybe.
Oh, maybe.
Some sailing. Just a couple updates. Now that GTA is getting ported to the new current modern fast gen whatever consoles, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. The standalone release of GTA Online is 95 gigabytes for the Xbox Series X. So time to maybe make some space on your memory card for that. And GTA 5 on the Series X has 3 graphics modes, improved visuals, and more. That more includes faster loading times, the ability to migrate your characters from the older Xbox version. But they're talking about, 4K, ray tracing.
So at this point, GTA 5 is like Rockstar's version of Skyrim.
It sure is. Yep. With the added, bonus of online, which does make it, a little more interesting perhaps than Skyrim.
But you can also buy the online individually. You don't even need the online portion of things. Like that's the thing about it. Like,
yeah, it is interesting that way.
Age of Empires. I really like this. Sorry to cut you off, but I'm really excited about this. Age of Empires 4 Season 1 will be the first major update for 2022 for this game. And if you have not really played through Age of Empires 4, I need to jump back into this because I was getting pretty far into it. I really dig the campaign for this game, like a lot. It's very entertaining. It's very much. I was a consumer of the old school like History Channel, right, where they actually would show a lot of historical like battles and like knowledge based stuff rather than reality TV that it's kind of turned into today. So if you're really into the actual like history of a thing, it's more than just the gameplay that's here. There's a lot of actual like cool history stuff. And I've been getting into watching the new Vikings Valhalla show, which is a sequel show to the other Vikings. And while they're not exactly 100% accurate in history, because for those who don't know, like in the original Vikings, you had I can't believe I just did this. This happened to me. Ragnar. So Ragnar is like the main, like when the show starts, and he has his son Bjorn Ironside and his brother Rollo and stuff like that. But the character of Rollo and Ragnar in actual Viking history didn't even know each other. They were in 2 different parts of Viking history. They take place during 2 different eras of Viking history. Those 2 people. And so that's the kind of thing. So it's like it's mostly accurate history, but like with some fun twists to it to kind of make it an entertaining show, if you will. And so the new Vikings Valhalla is very similar to that too. So it's very like there's a lot of actual historical battles in the show, but they put some fun TV fictional spins on things just for fun, just to kind of keep it different, keep it, whatever going on. So, so know that going into it if you're going to watch the show, but watching Age of Empires 4 or playing Age of Empires 4 feels a lot like that. You're getting a lot of the fun gameplay, but some history or some real history in there with it too, which is a lot of fun. So anyway.
Yeah. I tried watching the first Vikings show with my wife, and she couldn't handle the violence, but I haven't had a chance to really get into it.
Yeah, there's a little if you can get past some of the pretty grotesque
gore.
violence, the story is really good though. So I really like it.
The violence doesn't bother me, to be clear. So I'm all for it, but yeah, I just haven't had a chance to get to it.
Well, if you need a watching partner, let me know. I'll watch it with you.
All right. Oh, thank you. The dream may be coming true, my friend.
$1 million?
No. We may finally be getting the Fallout New Vegas sequel that everyone's been craving since the game came out.
Oh, that dream. Yeah.
Yes. Very specifically, Microsoft now owns all of the attendant studios that worked on Fallout New Vegas. And so they are considering a sequel, supposedly. Very early stages, but definitely promising that we might get another Fallout New Vegas.
Do it. All right, let's get into the retro news.
Table.
Yes.
We don't like to talk politics on the show, and I won't spend a ton of time on this, but there is some world events going on. The people of Ukraine are being invaded by their neighbors and the Russians, and a lot of people are choosing to support the Ukraine charities and things and help out.
I think itch.io has a big bundle for Ukraine kind of a thing going on.
Yeah, for like $10 you get almost 1,000 games and pieces of content for like tabletop and things with that. But actually we got a very surprising bit of charity. John Romero, one of the original designers of the Doom games, released a new Doom 2 level for a few bucks, and all the proceeds go to the Red Cross for Ukraine. So that was kind of an interesting thing. And if you're a fan of Doom, it's sort of, amazing to have John Romero, who has not done any Doom 2 content since the game released, for him to step up and finally do something with it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I think you have to go to his website to get this. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. And it's billed in like euros, I think. Yeah, it's €5 donation. So that's about $7-8 American.
That's not bad. I like it.
Yeah. I played the first little bit of it and it was hard. So I don't know if that's speaking to my Doom skills after all these years being a little rusty or the actual level, but I found it pretty challenging. So.
Well, that's fun. I appreciate that kind of stuff, though.
Yeah, well, and it goes to a good cause, I think. Even whatever your beliefs on the issue in Ukraine, it's certainly not. You can't deny that the people of Ukraine are suffering.
Right? Well, and this isn't going to go to fund like the war effort. This is going to most of the stuff out there is to help fund humanitarian causes to help the innocent civilians, yes. And so that no matter where you kind of fall on the spectrum there, the civilians, do need support and help in either case. So
for sure,
this is what's important there. So that's something worth supporting. In our opinion, we're not saying that you should or shouldn't do that. We just like it over here at OtherWorldsGG.
Absolutely, helping people is never a bad thing.
So,
do you remember the Gold Box D&D games from back in the early DOS days?
I do actually, yeah.
They were extremely popular. A very faithful adaptation of what second edition D&D generally, I believe. and they are coming back. They're going to be on Steam soon, so that's something to look for if you're a fan of those classic games. I feel like they were already on GOG, some of them, but this is going to be
like Eye
8
of the Beholder and stuff like that.
Yeah, but this is going to be 8 different collections that span the entire wealth of early DOS D&D games. So should be pretty cool.
This is really cool. I like that they're including some of that gold box artwork and some of the promotional stuff too here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it brought those games to life, right? The box art was a big part of it originally.
Yep. All right, what else we got here?
Well, somebody came out with a proof of concept kind of demo of running Vita games natively on the Switch. So rather than building like a virtual Vita that runs in software, this is actually translating when a game says, uses a command for 3D or 2D graphics or sends something to CPU. There's just a very thin translation layer that's very, very fast, and that translates those commands to run on the Switch. So this is very similar actually to how Proton on Linux is able to run Windows games, because when you make a Windows API call, it just changes it into the equivalent Linux API call. So pretty crazy that this is working, and we actually have some stuff from the Vita running natively on the Switch. Now, obviously, you're going to have to homebrew enable your Switch to do this, but pretty darn exciting, I think, to see something like this come out. I mean, the Vita was still one of my favorite handheld consoles from back in the day. So,
absolutely, I missed the Vita bandwagon, and it was one of those things where, like, I wish I had gotten on it at the time.
It was so expensive for what it was, though. I mean, I loved it, but like, it was not a cheap system.
Well, I mean, for one thing, though, like we've talked about this on the show, Nintendo's constant change of their technology, right? So, like, they come out with like the Game Boy, and then it's like the Game Boy Plus, and it's like the Game Boy Plus Plus, and you're just like, well, would you stop? Like, why do I have to keep buying new hardware in order to like keep playing these new games that you want to put out? It's just like, I feel like, because they did like the new 3D XL or whatever one is that came out with a little nub on it, and I feel like they only did that for like a couple of games that they needed to have it, because nothing else actually needed it, and you're just like, you guys suck, that? Like,
yeah, well, and they even had Kid Icarus, I remember, came with a thing where you popped your pre-new, like the original 3DS into it, and it had the right stick and shoulder buttons that were missing from the old 3DS. But that there was like one game that used it, and then when they came out with the new 3DS, they just ported it to use the new 3DS controls, which were basically the same thing.
Terrible.
And yeah, well, Nintendo certainly can be frustrating that way. We didn't have it as a news story, but it's worth mentioning that the eShop for the 3DS and Wii U is gone. They've shut it down, so you can't get any of those games anymore, which is kind of unfortunate. But one piece of good news is the 3DS is really easy to enable for homebrew if you want to go that route. So something to think about. But yeah, the Vita games, there's some great games on the Vita. It'd be really cool to see them live on. And the Vita was hardware compatible with the PSP. So you're not just getting all the Vita games with this, you're potentially getting all the PSP games as well. So that'll be
those UMDs or whatever those things were called. Those
yep.
God.
The mini discs, those little tiny.
I can't believe
even had movies.
I was going to say, I can't believe there was a market for films to be put onto that format for this thing. I was like, this is
the poor PSP, man.
Oh, Sony, you silly goose. All right.
Well, and it used their proprietary memory stick format. I mean,
it was just terrible. Yeah.
Friggin' Sony. All right, so F-Zero X.
I'm really excited about this. Like, we were talking before the show about some of the Switch games and Nintendo stuff doing more to support their existing, or like at least some of their newer games to do online stuff or new online content. So F-Zero X is now available on Switch's online expansion pack. So with 4-player online support too, just to boot. So
yeah, that was the part that was surprising me. This isn't just a simple let's take the ROM and drop it in an emulator. They actually wired up, online play for this, even though it's, a classic game, so to speak.
Nintendo needs to keep moving in this direction. They really need to keep doing this. And if they continue this up, they're going to make me a believer again. They're starting to with some things, but like if they can continue to move in this direction, I really feel like they're going to make me a believer. So
well, and this is an N64 game, to be clear,
right?
And there are so many great local co-op, local multiplayer N64 games that would be fantastic to play online with friends. And so I really hope this is like the beginning of a trend, as you say.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, let's get into some VR stuff here. We got plenty of time. Let's get into some VR stuff here. So wow, there's actually some pretty decent VR stuff going on in here.
Yeah, there's some exciting news. Demio is a multiplayer Dungeons and Dragons style, dungeon crawl. There's an NPC that plays the dungeon master, and then all the players are actually around a table, and you move your little figure in VR on the game table. It has multiplayer support, and they're introducing a PC version as well, meaning no VR required. And basically, they just announced that if you own the VR version, you're going to get the PC version for free on whichever platform you bought it on. So if you bought it on Steam, you'll get the Steam version. If you bought it on Oculus, you'll get the Oculus Store version that does not require VR. So that's pretty cool.
All right. Resident Evil 7 VR mod will add motion controls. New gameplay has been revealed for this. So again, if you're wanting that crap your pants experience that Melify talked about, then go have fun with that.
Yeah, so. To be clear, the game Resident Evil 7 had a VR mode exclusive to PlayStation. It was only available for PSVR. So this is taking the PC version and modding in VR support. So
yeah, you and your Roosters all for it.
Yeah, the Roosters are very excited about Resident Evil. I don't know why.
What else we got here? Beat Saber Surprise launches new arc and chain notes. I apparently he's into VR.
Very excited.
So Beat Saber is an interesting application. I don't appreciate the limited value though that Beat Saber offers. Where Beat Saber shines is if you can modify it to add in all of your own custom stuff to the game. I feel like that's where really Beat Saber kind of can shine. I've seen somebody who's had one modded up that had like thousands of songs and all kinds of different like map tracks and things going on in it. That to me made the stuff shine. But there's apparently some new Beat Saber music and mechanics that are going to be released. So, OST 5 featuring 6 exclusive free songs, new gameplay mechanic, which is that arc and chain notes that we were talking about, new lighting system environment, 36 new maps in total, which is pretty interesting that they're finally doing this. They're adding in their own content, which is going to be nice.
They're also they added a level editor a while back, so they've added some more things you can put in your levels with this update. So I mean, it's cool that they're still cranking away on this game and giving people free stuff for it. So it seems like it's one of those games everybody owns on VR if they have VR. Speaking of a game that everybody should own, Half-Life Alyx is Valve's big VR title.
It's really good.
It is excellent. And that has led to a couple of interesting mods for it. One is a fan campaign that brings Nova Prospect from Half-Life 2 into VR, so you can explore it including, combine soldiers and all kinds of stuff. The other thing that somebody did is a BioShock mod where it actually takes Half-Life Alyx and converts it into a BioShock experience in Rapture, which I thought looked really cool. They've got a huge part 2 for that coming out very soon, chapter 2. So
nice. I should probably check those out. But what I really want to check out is there is a fan doing a remake of Star Wars Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast in VR, and the gameplay footage of this was freaking fantastic. VR, I feel like, is the perfect environment to make a Star Wars game because the mechanics for VR are very similar to using like Jedi powers and the Force and stuff like that. So the fact that they, someone's doing a remake in VR of this game is just really awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of the classic sound effects that are in there that I was noticing. Some of the animations with like the contact with a lightsaber and like a wall and like the melting stuff, they were showing cutting of boxes and then picking up the chunk of the box and throwing it and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. I'm really excited to see this.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the classic Star Wars games too, so it's definitely worth picking up and playing, I think. All right, so go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do you like Wolfenstein? Are you a Wolfenstein fan?
Yeah, I remember I was doing a full playthrough of the modern Wolfenstein game to catch up on the series and kind of get the history. It's not often talked about, but Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and then the modern Wolfenstein Bad Blood, or whatever it is. I forget the subtitle. But those games are one continuous story. Like the storyline from Return to Castle Wolfenstein from 2003 or whatever it is the beginning of a story arc that carries through all of those games. And so this is the first one of that series, got ported to Quest, and it just got a big performance boost. So you can basically take the original files out of the Steam version, put them into your Quest if you've homebrew enabled it using SideQuest, and you can play Return to Castle Wolfenstein in VR on your Quest.
Yeah, it's pretty slick. I like that.
And it's free if you have the game, so check it out.
So here's this next one's a little funny. I kind of chuckle at this, but Valve standalone VR hints Gabe Newell wants tetherless VR. Well, Gabe, that
so do we.
I think you're onto something.
Yeah. Oh boy, Gabe.
I mean, it already exists, brother. Come on, man, get with the times.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because the Oculus Quest now is over 50% of the VR headsets being used on Steam. So clearly people like that option. Now, people can play tethered as well. And I do it sometimes if I'm playing seated because I don't want to worry about my battery dying. So I have the USB-C cable plugged in. But absolutely, gosh, get us wireless index. Like, I'm all for it. Make it happen, Gabe, please.
Yeah. I love the Quest in that, like, it is the best of both worlds. It's got its own independent thing, so you can travel with it, and then you can also use it with your computer. And the nice thing about using it with your computer is you don't have to be limited to whatever is just on Steam. Any 3D application you have on your PC will work. And any VR, I said 3D, any VR application you have on your PC will work.
Well, you weren't wrong, though. You can play 3D games on a flat screen in VR. I mean, it's not...
Well, but I mean, like, specifically, like, there's stuff that I think you can get from, like, Itch, and there's stuff that you can get, I think, from a few other places that are VR games that you can also play when you have this, wirelessly.
Ubisoft, you can play the Star Trek Bridge Crew. They've got a couple other VR games on Ubi. So, yeah, there's a lot of content. And even if you have the game, one of the things I love about the Quest is if you buy the game, a lot of them are cross-buy with the PC version. So you get the benefit of having it native on the Quest, so you can take it with you. But if you want better graphics, if you want, more immersive experience, you can play the PC version when you're sitting at home in front of your computer. And, you get best of both worlds, like you said.
All right. PlayStation VR 2 is going to be getting a release set for Q1 of 2023. So if you are in the Sony PlayStation VR camp and you're looking for something new for that PlayStation 5, it's coming. So at least that's what they say.
Yeah, well, something to look forward to. The thing is, the VR ecosystem is so small. The more hardware there is, the more games we're going to get, the more content we're going to get, because they can't afford to be exclusive. They've got to put it, these things on PC and console to make money.
All right.
Got a couple pieces of Nintendo news. Did you realize the Switch is now 5 years old? Does that seem possible?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at this point, because I remember it came out when we were in our first apartment. So, I mean, back in North Carolina. So, yeah, not surprised here. I think it's interesting that it's only 5 years old, considering that they've already come out with an upgraded version of it with the OLED Switch. But I think it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's easy to forget sometimes that the Switch is out there at times, because you don't always hear about some new ridiculous game, with the exception of every now and then you'll hear about, like, oh, the new Animal Crossing, and then you hear nothing about it other than Animal Crossing, or the new Metroid Dread that came out that was really good, and then you hear nothing about it but for a while. And then there's like the new Pokemon game that came out, and it's just like you hear nothing other than that new Pokemon game, and that's like you only hear about those one big hitters you hear about the other stuff, but like really whenever you think about the Switch, it's usually that one big story that comes out, and then like it's, and so yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of look back and see the evolution of it. You mentioned that there've been 2 versions, but if you count, there's actually 4.
Sure,
the original.
That's true.
They did the battery improved version, which was like a die shrink on the CPU, so it was more efficient. They did the Switch Lite, which was the non-docking version, and now the OLED version. So it's they've Nintendo'd it, right? Like we were talking about with the 3DS, they've Nintendo'd it, no question. But that said, they did mention, we talked about this last show, that they're saying that they're halfway through their life cycle, they figure. So we're not going to be seeing a new Switch probably for a few more years.
Alrighty.
Speaking of the one big game that the Switch has, it seems like it for every month or so. Triangle Strategy, which is the horribly named Square Enix strategy game that just came out on Switch, is getting rave reviews. So something to look forward to if you do own a Switch and like that kind of turn-based strategy. There's some something new for you.
Nice. What's going on in the PlayStation world, brother?
Gran Turismo 7, kind of the big daddy of racing games on the PlayStation, just came out. It's got a PS4 and PS5 version. Looks, beautiful. All credit where credit's due. It looks beautiful, especially on the PS5. But a lot of people were comparing this to Forza Horizon 5, and I think that's really an unfair comparison, because Gran Turismo is a track racing game. So you are driving on, courses that exist in the real world with real cars, and you're doing laps. Forza Horizon, you are driving anywhere you want in a virtual Mexico, right? So it's a very, very different game. And I think, people forget that you can really do a lot more if you only have the track and that very specific area to worry about versus an entire world.
Huh. Yeah, I can't say I'm looking forward to Gran Turismo, honestly. It does not get my interest going at all.
I do not like track racing games. It just doesn't interest me. But like, I love Horizon because it is open world and I can go do different things and I can do different types of events, you know?
Well, and I would like to see more of in the Horizon world. I'd like to see them almost kind of combine the official and the open world stuff almost into like like Forza Horizon universe kind of a thing. So it's like, you know, one game. Well, it's kind of like what they do with Call of Duty, right? You got like the war zone, then you have the campaign, then you have. It'd be nice to see some kind of like unified thing between the two of those. Is what I'm getting at. But anyway,
yeah, that would be cool.
So we've talked about their services, Sony services, a number of times. But PS Now games leaving service with minimal notice from Sony. That's kind of goofy considering that like on Xbox with the Game Pass, there's like a huge big notice there about like games leaving soon, and so like you're very much aware of when their like departure date is going to be to give you time to either A, finish playing it, or B, go ahead and buy it at a discount so you can finish playing it or whatever it is. PlayStation Plus and PlayStation Now subscriptions are going to be merging ahead of a rumored
Spartacus.
Yes.
That's the code name for their rumored Game Pass competitor.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think they have an option here to really compete with Microsoft if they play their cards right and if they provide a similarly good service at a decent price. So
that's going to be the hard part. At least according to the rumors, there's 3 tiers to it, and you get at the top tier a EA Play like demo of new releases, but not brand new full releases from Sony. So that's a very different proposition than getting every Bethesda game, every Microsoft game, every Obsidian game, you know, as part of the subscription. So we'll see. I'm interested. I have a PS Now and PS Plus subscription, so if I could combine those and save a little money, I'd sure be happy about that. PlayStation is apparently going to be bringing back a couple of their classic franchises. Sly Cooper, which was the thieving raccoon platformer, and Infamous, which was a combat adventure game. I'm blanking on whether it was first or third person. I feel like it was third person. So I really enjoyed Infamous Second Son, which was one of the early PS4 titles. That was a lot of fun to play. So hopefully we'll get some good games out of this.
Yes, indeed. Well, I think that's going to do it for the game news this time, but we're going to continue doing some news stories and some other chats in our next episode, so be sure to check out the next episode to get the full rounded version of all of our news. And then some. We'll have some more fun things to discuss in the next episode. So come on over to our Discord at discord.otherworlds.gg for all of these things and more. We love playing games with people, so come on, play some games with us. We just had a community night this last Thursday in which we played Supreme Commander, so that was a lot of fun. Had a few hours of fun with that one. We played on one of their big epic maps, and oh boy, that was intense. And so be sure to check all that stuff out. We try to do community nights as often as we can on Thursdays if we can. Sometimes I don't always get to the trigger in time to let everybody know that we're doing something, but come and hang out in the Discord and, you know, maybe spin up something yourself. Host a game night for the community if you want. You're more than welcome to come and do that. We have a Minecraft server still. That's a lot of fun. So go check that out. And I think we actually have an Unreal Tournament server. I gotta go check on that one. We might go ahead and spin that one down for a little while if we haven't already. But come on by. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. This has been episode number 52.
Yeehaw.